Well, I don't know. We need to check still. Okay, sound test 1, 2, 3. Ah. Hi guys, hello, welcome to the second lesson. I hope the guys on internet can hear me, so if I can still see your chat, so if you send hi or something like that, that would be brilliant. So today's lesson is going to be slightly different than the one a couple of days ago. What we are going to do today is set up our development platform. So I'm actually going to do it on my computer here that I brought for this purpose. You can actually follow along, okay? But before I go into the details, I'll show you a few things because I slightly cheated because I prepared a few things, but I'll show you what it means, okay? And what I did, so because some things take a long time, so I didn't want for us to wait, for installation things to fill in and so on, okay? So yeah, Julia said hi, thank you very much, Julia. Okay, I'm going to show my presentation, so hopefully you will see it if I go to that scene, okay? So, what we need to do, first of all, this is if you have Windows. If you don't have Windows, this doesn't apply for you. So if you want to, like me, set up Ubuntu next to Windows, dual boot. So what it means, dual boot, means that when I turn on my computer, it gives me an option. Do I want Windows or do I want Ubuntu, okay? And I choose Ubuntu, and then I'm in Ubuntu, I can do all my development work. Then I restart my computer, it asks me again, what do I want? So those two are completely separate from each other, okay? So the first step to do this is to make some space for your Ubuntu, okay? And this is done, and it's same in Windows 10 and Windows 11, and even older Windows. You open a program called Disk Manager, okay? And in Disk Manager, you will have something like this. It might be different in your cases, okay? You can have multiple hard drives. But I have on this laptop one hard drive, and this drive is C, as you can see here on the screen, this one which has these lines. And it's taking all of the space, okay? So it's fully used for Windows. Now, I have to explain that we have some other partitions, you know, so we have one very tiny partition, another slightly bigger, and then a little bit there, and so on. So this is what is important to understand. You don't touch any of these other ones. They are important for your system, so you don't touch it, okay? So this big one, the biggest one, it should be, is the one that you are actually using for all your programs on Windows and all your documents, okay? And again, if things go wrong, it's very important that you did a backup of your imported documents so you don't lose them, okay? And many things can go wrong during this process. So if you say, yeah, it's fine, I don't have anything important, think again, okay? Probably you do, so backup takes a little while, but you know, trust me, I lost documents before, and it's absolutely horrible, okay? So what I need to do is shrink this partition, okay? And if I want to shrink it, basically it's very simple. I click on this and say shrink, okay? And Windows will check, do I have enough space? Is it safe to do so? And it will give me this pop-up screen, okay? And it will ask me how much space I want to free, okay? So this is the amount of space that I'm putting here. So for this computer, I put 100 gigabytes of space. So that's the number I put here, and I press the shrink button, and whoop, some magic happened, okay? And I got this, okay? So you can see that it's changed now. My C drive is much smaller, okay? So all my Windows stuff is still working, okay? I am in Windows, you know, so it's working. But I also have approximately 100 gigabytes of space unallocated, okay? So this is what you are trying to achieve in this case, okay? So, in the link on the previous video, I shared one of the many YouTube videos how to do this, so I'm not going to go into the details, you know, this is relatively easy to do, okay? But what we do need to do while we are doing this, we also need to download Ubuntu, okay? Installation file for the Ubuntu, and we need a little USB stick, so we need one of these little things, which should have at least 8 gigabytes of free space, and you just use it once and then you can format it again, okay? So in order to do this, I went to my website, I searched for Ubuntu, but basically if I just open this very quickly, if it works, you will see the one that I downloaded for this purpose. It's 18.04.6. It says AMD and stuff like that, so it's not opening for some reason, which is always good. So I'll share these links afterwards in the description anyway, so if you haven't downloaded Ubuntu, then you can do it from here. The link that I shared in a previous video also said something about download application called Etcher, and then with the Etcher, you plug in your USB, you select this file that you just downloaded. Okay, so finally it opened. So I'm doing the desktop image. I'm not doing the server image, okay? Okay, that's great. So, 1 second. Cast. It's an internet problem. Sorry, guys. We have some. Cancel. Tick. Cast. Desktop project. Okay, so should be on now. If it isn't, then there's not much to see in this one anyway for the guys in the office, so as long as you can follow it, maybe even on YouTube, if you open it on your computers, you will see what it is. But on the website of Ubuntu, typically on the home page, you can download version 20 or 22 or something like that. You need to see older versions, so as I said, I'll share the link. And when you find it, you download the desktop image, okay, not the server image. Even if we are setting up the server, we want to have graphics interface in order to do what we need to do. Then you open the Etcher app. Again, I'll share the link. And with the Etcher app, you say, hey, use this USB drive and use this file that I downloaded and put this file on the USB. Okay, and then you wait 2-3 minutes and then it's done. Okay, so this is all what we have to do. However, it didn't work for me. I tried it last night, but doesn't work. Well, actually, it worked fine first time, so I was like happily installing Ubuntu and it crashed, and then the drive didn't work, so I tried it again, then I couldn't format the drive, then I couldn't copy, then I tried to format the drive, which didn't work. You know, so you have lots of these little issues with that. So what I had to do with the drive, which got completely messed up, I had to format it like properly, okay? So Windows typically has this very fast format, which just deletes the table of the files, but actually doesn't delete any data, okay? So I downloaded this Paragon software, which helped me. It's a free software. Again, I'll share the link later after the lesson. So I downloaded this in order to remove all the partitions and then format my USB drive so it doesn't cause me errors during the installation, okay? So I managed to get rid of all the partitions, okay? But then more problems, because this Paragon software that I used also doesn't do a proper formatting, okay? So it does delete partitions, but it doesn't do proper formatting, okay? So at the end of the day, I used an application called Rufus instead of the Etcher, okay? So there's another application called Rufus, which you can download, and it's pretty much the same thing. You just say, hey, I want this file that I downloaded to put on this USB, but then it has one little checkbox which you say do a proper formatting, which did for 20 minutes or so, but then after that I finally got it up and running, and I was like, okay, now I can install this on my computer. So what I need to do on my computer obviously is stick this USB in, restart the computer. What I typically do, I shut down and then wait for it to shut down, and then I turn my computer on, and then it just goes into Windows, ignores the drive completely, okay? So now is the thing where you have to go to your BIOS, okay? And inside the BIOS, what you need to do is make a few changes, okay? And this is, again, a little bit tough, okay? because on a different computers, there's a different way to get into the BIOS. Sometimes you press escape, F1, F2, delete, F12, F10, you know, and you have to do it very quickly. So what I do, I just hit all the keys, you know, till it lets me in, okay? So what I then got is this menu that the guys on the stream can see, which says, okay, what do you want? Do you want to do Windows? Do you want to do your USB? Okay, which in my case is called SanDisk, or do I want to go to BIOS? Okay, so first I had to go to the BIOS, okay, and I have to change the boot order, but again it didn't work, okay. It did boot, start loading Ubuntu, which is great, but then it reported an error. Because there is another thing that is important to set up, especially these newer computers, is to disable secure boot. And on my computer, in BIOS, I have a menu like this. It will probably look completely different on your computers, but you need to disable it. Okay, you can enable it later. Okay, so this is some extra protection. Okay, so I disabled it, I saved the settings, restarted the computer again, and finally, it didn't work. Because I couldn't find one file. So I Googled that, and then it told me, oh my God, you have to copy this file, rename it, and then it will find it. And I was like, why are you making this so complicated, okay? But there are lovely people on the internet which help you with every error. So, and of course, if you still have problems, like few of the guys told me that they do, you can do that. So I renamed the file, put everything up. Please work now. No. So it works very well, you know, so I change, you know, this is where I change my order on my computer, and then you get this menu finally when it boots. Do you want to try Ubuntu? Do you want to install Ubuntu? Okay, so I say fine, install, okay? And installation process is quite quick, you know, and it's quite simple, okay? But it didn't work for me on my other computer, okay? Why did it work? Because I have two hard drives working in parallel called the RAID, okay? And then I gave up because I'm not going to change my RAID settings for Ubuntu to work. So I said, you know what, I'll do it tomorrow morning, which is today, just on my other computer, which doesn't have a RAID. So if you have two hard drives, which I doubt that you do, but if you do, you will have additional problems. So this is why I said to myself, okay, it's too late. I'm going to do this on my little laptop, which is now here. And it worked with no problem. So the USB drive is fine. Okay, I have it here. So if the guys at the office need it, I can share it with you guys. It asks you a few questions, you know, which are very simple to answer, you know. But one question is, you know, a little bit tricky, okay? It asks you what's your keyboard. Okay, and it has a little window where you can try your keyboard. Try @ sign and quotes, okay? Because they are typically swapped around. So if those two are swapped, then everything will be wrong. And if you type your password and you have special characters, you might have a problem later on. So try what your keyboard is and choose the proper one at that step. Don't just say next, 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 you know, throughout that, okay? So the keyboard is fine. And then hopefully you will get to this point where it asks you, do you want to install Ubuntu alongside Windows Boot Manager? And then you say, yes, I'm fine with that. Go ahead, do that, okay? If you plan to install it to external USB hard drive, then you have to choose something else, and then you have to select the partitions. And in the video that I shared, the guy was saying, okay, create a swap partition, create a home partition, root partition, and so on. So you can follow that, and hopefully it will work. I know it didn't work for some of our guys, but you know, that's the process. It should work in theory, but it is a hard thing. Many things can go wrong, okay? And this is why, again, I said back up your data. Because if you say, hey, erase everything and install Ubuntu, it will erase your Windows. If you backed up stuff, well, you still have a problem. You have to reinstall Windows and fix everything. It's still a few hours of work, but at least you have your pictures of your kitten and whatever not, but otherwise they're gone. So if everything goes well, it asks you what's your name, what's your computer name, and what's your password, okay? And I tend to choose the shortest possible options here, okay? So I will say that in Ubuntu, in Linux, it asks you for your password every 5 minutes. If your password is 20 letters long, you are going to hate it, okay? And sometimes later even doesn't allow you easily to change your password to something short like 0000, okay? So if you can at this stage enter very short password, I put 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that, so I can easily remember it. It doesn't have to be secure. It's my development machine. I don't care, there's no weird pictures of me on it or anything like that, okay? So password can be something simple. And your username and your computer name, if they are short, then every time when you go on terminal, they will not take too much space. If you put a long name and long computer name, that's what's going to write on terminal every single time, so that annoys me, so I like to keep these usernames and computer names short. So I installed Ubuntu, everything is fine. It tells me reboot your computer. I reboot my computer. It reminds me to take out this USB drive so it doesn't boot from it again. So Ubuntu works. Great. And then I was like, okay, let me try the Windows. Okay, but the Windows didn't work. So this is what can happen. The Windows doesn't work anymore. Okay, it can happen depending how your Windows was installed. Okay, so mine was installed with extra security called this BitLocker. So because I disabled that secure boot, if you remember, now it's not secure anymore, so it wants me to type recovery key. Great. So I go back to BIOS, enable the secure thing, but this one is not budging, so it's like, yeah, we know what you're doing now, so still enter this recovery key. So I had to go to Microsoft website on my phone, find that recovery key with my Microsoft account, and then it's like 1,000 letters long, so I asked Aline, can you read it out for me, type it very carefully. So at the end, I managed to get into Windows and Ubuntu, so at the end, it works, as you will see in a few minutes. Okay? So, as I said, there are a few issues that I got from guys, this is when you are installing on the external USB drive, so it doesn't have enough space to create partitions, because tried, failed, you have to delete partitions and then try again. But it could be that, just like I was explaining earlier, the USB drive needs to be formatted properly, okay? So that's why we use those two software that I said I'll send the link to them. They're free, so you can reformat the drive or try a different one, just to make sure that it works fine. However, if you are installing on external hard drive, okay, you want this external hard drive to be very fast, so it can load and put the data very quickly across, okay? Now I bought external hard drive and I installed stuff before like that, okay? And it was slow as hell. So I measured what's my hard drive speed, because the hard drive, external hard drive says I am working with 450 megabits something per second per. Great. Let's see what does it work at. 30. Okay? So on the box it says 450, my computer says 30. So of course it is slow. So I tried different USB ports and different this and different that. Read the half of the internet to see what's the problem, and the problem was the cable. Okay? So it seems that every USB cable is not the same. So I found one cable, it looks exactly the same like the other cable, and it works. It gives you 400 megabits easily, you know, reading, writing, it was like beautiful, okay? But the thing is, when you go to the shop, there's not a single cable which says this one you buy for the hard drive, if you want to use it as external, it will give you 450. No, they don't do that. So you have to buy like half of the shop worth of cables and then try each one. You know, so if it doesn't work, it can be the cable thing. Okay? It can be that your USB is, you know, I have this one, and then I have this one, and I have this one. These two look the same, but this one is 5 times shorter.
If you want to show it, change the CD.
I know, but, you know, one is 5 times slower than the other. Okay, they do exactly the same. So if you have multiple USBs, check them, make sure that before you set up everything that it's actually going to run fast. Okay, because they can run very fast. They can achieve 400 megabits per second transfer rates. But if they are working at 30, don't do it. It's not worth it, okay? So that's the thing with USBs, okay? If you want to install it on external one, you have to choose custom installation. And as I said, in that custom installation, you have to create these little guys, swap files, home directory, root directory, and so on. And then when you click install, hopefully it will work. If it doesn't work, it might be back your USB drive is not working 100%. But it also could be your BIOS is protected and all that other stuff that I mentioned before. So there's many things that can go wrong throughout this process. Okay? So, once your USB is ready, once your Ubuntu is installed, then you are fine. Then I can just do one thing. What I will do right now, I will shut down my computer and I will boot it in a few seconds inside the Ubuntu, okay? So as I said, I cheated a little bit. I installed Ubuntu right now, okay, so Ubuntu is installed, but I didn't do anything else, okay? So when my computer wakes up and when I switch a few things around here and turn on the projector for you guys here, I'm going to install Apache and everything else live so you can follow along and hopefully that will all make sense for you guys and that you will be able to see what I'm doing, and I will explain every step of the way. Okay, so my computer booted Ubuntu, so let me just also put this on a projector, and then I can switch few things around. Click, cut. Okay. I see there's no, the projector doesn't work. Okay, look. This is the internet issues that we had earlier today, so I hope that it will fix if I restart. As I said, live coding, live demonstration, it always, things can go wrong multiple times. So guys on internet, how far did you get? Did you manage to have everything set up? Do you have your development environment ready, I wonder? Or did you get stuck? Maybe send me a message where you are, at what stage. I know that Julia, you managed to get it almost.
Yes, but in the end it didn't work.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Did have any luck? Sam, you crashed your computer completely and utterly. Okay. You have a problem with USB, external USB. You were working on Mac, so you have a different process to follow. I'll share that link too. Okay, Julia got confused on online, which is great, which is fair point. And DJ said, I'm fine. I'm currently booting into Ubuntu. That sounds good, man. Okay, turning on the projector eventually. By the way, guys, you gave me lots of good feedback, such as don't bang microphones on the table, which was annoying, and don't fiddle with this too much technology, which I'm doing right now. So I think those were all valid responses. Oh, this guy has Windows problems. Okay. No, projector is not doing things. But anyway, guys, if you open a YouTube, you can see the screen over there. So I will carry on if you don't mind. So I'm in Ubuntu. Okay. One thing what I first of all like in Ubuntu, it comes pre-installed with Firefox, okay? And I like Firefox, and I use Firefox in order to synchronize all my links between my multiple computers. So even if I go to another computer, I just log in and all my bookmarks and the settings are there, okay? But you need to install every single browser that there is. So you install Chrome, you install Opera, doesn't matter, whatever is supported, you install on this. Why? Because this is a web development. And web development, it doesn't need to just work on your browser that you like. It has to work on any other browser, okay? So that's why you need extra space, you know, so you can install the browsers, but probably you need to install a few other things as well. Okay, so I'm in my browser, great, and I can log in to my system, because in this system I have a little document which I already shared online, how to set up this platform, okay? So, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow what this is saying, and do it step by step. The only thing what I also did quite quickly was I installed Visual Studio Code, okay? And Visual Studio Code, Skype, Chromium, whatever you want to install, you just go to Ubuntu software, you click search, you find whatever you need, and you click install. So I'm not going to spend too much time explaining how to get those applications, okay? So I hope you can see this. Let me make it slightly bigger as well. Okay, so we talked about Apache, okay, and this is what I'm going to install first. So I don't have Apache on my computer. Let me close these guys so you just have what is needed. This is your friend, terminal. Okay, I put a shortcut here because I'm using it all the time. If you can't find it, click here, should be here. If it's not, because it shows frequent applications, you can switch to all and then find it there, or you can type it here, terminal, there you go. And I open the terminal, okay? So see what I was saying a little bit earlier, you know, if my name and my computer are long, this little prompt takes lots of space, and I don't like that. I'm sure that you can hack it somewhere and change it, but you know, I don't have time for that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is basically copy paste stuff, okay, and you can do the same thing from the YouTube, okay, so I'm copy pasting stuff. And the first command I'm actually not going to use, okay? So sudo s, okay? So if I want to paste here, if I press Ctrl V, which is typical paste command, doesn't work. Ctrl Shift V, okay? So if you want to paste in terminal, you can change the settings, you know, but it's a little annoying, you know, or you can right click, whatever, but Ctrl Shift V pastes this in terminal. So this command, I'm telling a computer, the terminal, that everything else that I type will be used as a root user, as a main user, the biggest user with all the permissions who can do whatever the hell that wants. So it has everything enabled. God mode, okay? But I'm not going to do God mode, okay? So I'm going to delete this command, okay? And I'm going to do this little thing. So I'm copying this, going here, apt get update. Now this probably is going to complain, okay? Because I should really do this as a sudo user, okay? Because I want to update something called apt, okay? And it asks me for the password straight away. So this is my computer password that I set up on that previous screen. So if it's nice and, you know, short, you will type it quickly without any errors. If you put 68 letters, tough, okay? So what is this doing right now is, it's very interesting, okay? And this next one, which is same but upgrade, okay? Ubuntu has packages. It has repositories of different applications that you can add very quickly and easily with these commands. One of them would be Apache that I'm going to do next. Okay, so it has the repositories which are linked here. These are those links that we are talking about. Those are repositories. Okay, you can add your own and you will see that in a second. So if I say update, it updates the list, and upgrade, if there is anything new on those repositories, any new versions of these little applications, it will do the upgrade. So it's nice to have your system up to date, okay? Now Ubuntu 18 has repositories for Ubuntu 18. Ubuntu 20 has repositories for Ubuntu 20, and so on and so on, okay? So they are not exactly the same. So if I say install PHP on Ubuntu 18, it will check Ubuntu's 18 repository and install PHP, I don't know, 7.2, for example. If I do that on Ubuntu 20, it will not install 7.2 because they did the update of that repository, so it will install PHP 8, for example. But what if you want PHP 7.2? Well, tough. You can't do it, okay? Same thing with all the other applications that we are installing through this process, like mySQL and so on. Newer versions of Ubuntu have newer versions of app by default, okay? So this is why I insisted that we go for 18, so we can have a simple, little bit older versions of PHP, MySQL, and so on, okay? If you install 20, there are ways around it, but they are a little bit hard, but you will see them actually. I'll show it to you in a second, okay? So it tells me right now, do I want to continue? There's nothing to update because it's updated or whatever not, blah, blah, blah. So it's finished. I got back my command prompt. So this didn't do anything. It's just like, hey, if you have any updates, let's install them before I install new applications, okay? So the command that will install Apache is this one, Ctrl-Shift-V, okay? So sudo makes install it as a supermaster great user. Apt is this package manager thing, what I just described. command that what we want to do is install, and then the parameter that what we want to install is Apache. In the same way, you will see I will install mySQL and all the others. If I want to uninstall, I will say remove Apache or whatever it is. So boom, okay? So now it's checking all the stuff that it needs, you know, and it tells me here following packages will be installed, so it installs all the dependencies if it needs any. And it will take a little bit of space. Do I want to continue? Yes, enter. And now you can see it's connecting to the internet, connecting to all these different repositories, fetching all the files that it needs, and it's done. So Apache is now on my computer. It's installed. So with one line, I can install such a complex thing as Apache. Okay? It's not working yet because I didn't start it. Okay, I need to start it so for it to work. But before I do that, I need to just do this one. Okay, so this one, and this one will take a little bit to explain. Okay, so Apache has many extensions. Okay, and last time I explained how dumb it is. You know, it always, when you type URL in your browser, it finds that folder and that file. But that's not the case on modern websites. You can type google.com/terms and it will find terms and conditions /user, it will find, you know, /profile, you know, so they have these pretty URLs, which are actually not linked. There's no Google computer which has a folder user or profile that has all of us there. That's not how it works. So we are enabling this mode, okay, to utilize those pretty links a little bit later, so we can also have normal links that every modern website uses. Okay, once now that I installed this plugin, it's telling me to restart Apache, which I won't do yet, okay? So what I will do, I will start Apache, okay? And you can start Apache in many different ways, okay? But sudo service Apache to start, something like that, okay? What is service? This is a fun one. Because if I install something and start it as a service, it means it will always be on, okay? So it will permanently be on, it will work permanently. If I restart my computer, it will turn on. If it crashes, it will turn on again, okay? So it will permanently be on. It will try its best to be on, okay? So this is the difference between of these types of software, like if you put it on Windows, not side by side, but you install Apache on Windows, you don't have this service thing. You have to start it manually every single time. So now it's on. But let me check status of this service, okay? So it tells me it's running fine, okay? And I can press Control-C to exit, to go back to this my little cursor thing. Control-C is typically, but sometimes it's Control-X, Control-Z, you know, so you can get out of whatever it's doing, you know, depending where you are. Okay, so Apache is working great. How do I know it's working? Okay, well, let's try it out. Okay, so let's try going to my local website, okay? And this should be localhost, okay? And boom, it works, okay? So localhost is, and this you will see in a few minutes, this word is reserved to point to the address 127.0.0.1, which is the IP address of your computer. So your computer refers to itself always with this 127.0.0.1 when it speaks to itself, okay? When you speak to the computers which are on the same network, then they get a different IP address. And when you are connected to the internet, you get also another IP address. So you have 3 IP addresses typically for your computer. So if you are on your computer talking to yourself, it's 127.0.0.1, which I don't have to type. I can type localhost, so easier to type that than this. If I type 127.0.0.1, I get the same thing. Okay, so Apache is working. It's working on my computer. Nobody can access this because obviously you need to know what's my IP, the second IP that I talked about. But I don't care about that. This is my private web server. For testing purposes, it's great. Okay? Any questions so far? I will be working on a Mac, so how to set this up, okay? So on the Mac, I will share you guys a link with a very good tutorial, but it's very similar. You use a different package manager. You don't use this apt, you use brew, okay? And brew, you install Apache, which in this case is called HTTPD, but it's the same thing, and you get exactly the same results. So from now on, it will be very similar. I'll share the link later on. Okay, so now I need to configure Apache. Okay, so I can do it in multiple ways, but I want to explain a little bit about Linux and some basic commands. Okay, so one of the commands that I talked about is ls, stands for list. So it shows me what is in my current folder. Okay, and I am at my obviously user folder, which I have my downloads and music and documents and so on. Okay, fine. If I type cd desktop, it's not there. You can see it, it's right there, but it's not there. Okay, this is the first thing that you have to get used to. It's case sensitive. So lowercase desktop and uppercase desktop, not the same thing, okay? So I need to type with capital D desktop, otherwise it's not going to find it. And this goes for any single file that we talked about, a directory, okay? When we are programming, this is why we have some agreements between the programmers how to name stuff, so we all know what is it lowercase, uppercase, camel case, and all that sort of stuff. So there are some sort of agreements, follow this because it can get a mess. Okay, so CD capital D-E, and then there is a nice little trick which I say, you don't have to type this whole thing. If I press tab key, which is the one next to my Q key on my keyboard, it will fill it in. Okay, CD desktop, great. And see now this little thing where it says my username, it added this desktop thing, so I know where I am. And if I press ls, well, I have nothing on my desktop, so I got no results. If I want to go back, so one step up, cd space dot dot, okay? So see, the desktop is gone, now I'm back where I was. So if I do cd dot dot, if you try cd like that, it doesn't work. So it has to be space, okay? So now I'm home, cd dd. Now I'm in this just slash. This is the root, this is your hard drive, the beginning of your hard drive. So let's see what's inside. It's quite a lot of different things. What we had before was this home. Okay, this is where my user files are going to be, but we have all these other folders and so on. I'm not going to explain what all of these right now are. You will slowly get to learn them. But I'm going to go to var, okay, and see what's inside var. Lots of things, but there is one which I care about, which is www. What's inside? One folder, HTML. What's inside? One file, index.html. Okay, this is the file, this is what Apache installed as a default location where it's going to put every single file on our computer, which our website will need. So this is, in this folder, we'll put all our CSS files, JavaScript files, HTML files, PHP files, whatever. They're all going to be in this folder. Okay? And they can have substructure, you know. So when we say google.com or appswords.com or whatever our URL is, or localhost, it always looks in this folder. Okay? That's where it looks. It can't see anything outside of this folder. So that's the first security thing. It will never be able to see any of these other files that I showed you or access them. It's not allowed. Unless you deliberately make configuration to see everything, but nobody is silly enough to do that, okay? So first security thing of Apache and this Ubuntu and so on is that this is what you put in that is available in internet, okay? Now, I'm going to do cd ... So if you know, that goes up one directory. And if I put ls, I have one folder, HTML, okay? If I do ls-la, it will show something slightly different, okay? So it will give me, first of all, this drwx dash, you know, oh my God, what the hell is this? Some numbers, but then this is what I care about, first of all. It says root, root. You see these two roots, okay? And I'm looking at the last line here, because at the end it says HTML. So my folder called HTML, okay, is owned by user called root. And it belongs to the group called root. So that's why we see root twice. The first root is user. The second root is a group. Okay? I am user AF. Okay? So me as a user AF, I can't read and write the files here. I can't change them. I can't delete them because I don't have a permission to do that. Okay? Furthermore, this DRW, which is very cryptic, this says what sort of read-write permissions I have, read, write, execute, delete, and so on, okay? So this is what it tells, and I will show you a little bit later why this is not going to work, and then how to fix this to work and how to do it properly, okay? Because people have problem with permissions. On your Windows machine, you are the only user, you can access everything, you know, you just type in your PIN at the beginning and everything works fine. On Linux, that's not the case. You have many users, so you have one user and one group of users for Apache, one for SQL, one which is this master great user called root, and then there is you, a little developer. And if you add more applications, you might get more users and groups, okay? So this is a little bit of a complex thing. So you have to give the correct permissions and ownership of files and folders. And this is very different, and you forget, and you get error messages such as, I can't write here, you can't access this, you can't delete this file, you can't upload the file, and so on. That's all with the permissions, and I'll show that in a second, okay? So, if I type sudo before the command, then I can do whatever I want. I can write, read, do everything, okay? But that's not secure. Because then if somebody goes on internet to my server and everything is sudo, they can do whatever they want. They can access everybody's data and, you know, so not a very good idea. All clear? Any questions? Yeah. If you are working with Mac, it's actually similar, very similar, because it's based on the same stuff, so you will have to look after permissions and read, write, and all that sort of stuff. The only thing that your user, whatever your username of Mac is, belongs to the group called staff, S-T-A-F-F. So go figure. Okay, so I need to configure this Apache. Okay, so I need to go to this directory where Apache configuration is. So it is an etc Apache 2. And I can do one command like this on the screen, so it will do change directory specifically to that one. But I will show code. Okay, I didn't copy it, so great. Control C. Okay, so I'm changing directory to this. Okay, if I do ls, have many files here again, but the only one that I care is this Apache config file, okay? I want to edit it, but I can't, because if I do lsla, it will show me that apache.conf is owned by root. Okay? So if I try to edit this file, it's not going to allow me. So I have to type sudo, and then I can edit it. Okay. The program that we use for editing in a terminal is called Nano, and it should be installed. So Nano, so that's the program, and then I type the name of the file that I want to edit. So I type APA, and I can press tab, and it will fill in the rest for me. Okay, sudo nano apache, and here's this configuration file. Okay. So in this file, I scroll up and down with arrows. So I am scrolling down, and I need to scroll down according to these instructions to this place here. Okay? I can press enter a couple of times, and I need to type this thing. So I will copy paste it, Control Shift V. Okay, so it's here. Okay. So basically what I'm saying is that Apache will use this directory HTML, that it will have some permissions and setup that we need to have in here, okay? So can you override URLs, which we want to do, you know, so you see above it says don't, you know, so this is the setup that we have to have in Apache in order for us to work properly, okay? Now I need to save this, okay? So at the bottom it tells me what are the most common instructions. So I need to save it, which is for some reason it's called write out, okay? It doesn't say save, it says write out. And it's this little symbol and letter O. So basically I press Control O, and it says what is the file name. I will keep the same file name, so I'll just press enter, and then it says wrote this file to the disk. So I save my changes to this file. If I want to exit, it says here at the bottom, it's Control X, and I exited this. So now these changes are not applied yet. I need to do one thing. I need to restart Apache server after making changes to configuration file. So what I will do on this command line, I will press up arrow multiple times. Ding, 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 ding. Okay. And I have this sudo service Apache status. I can just do this restart, okay? Because it remembers every single command that you type, so you don't have to type them again and again. You can go up and find the ones which are most recent, or you can even press some key combination to search for a specific one. So bam, okay. If I spelled restart properly, so that's restarted, okay? Does it still work? Should. reload. It's the same page, so it doesn't change anything. Okay, so now I want to install PHP 7.3. That's my next step. Any questions so far about Apache? No? Okay. So I'll copy this first line, Control C, go to my terminal. Now, because these things that I'm installing, I installed globally, okay? It doesn't matter in which directory I am in most cases, okay? So, so just because I'm now in this etc Apache directory, and if I run this command, it will install it where it needs to go, so don't worry about that. Okay. Now see, this is actually not installing anything, it's adding a repository, okay? What's probably the case here is it doesn't have by default the PHP 7.3 in this list of repositories, so I need to add additional repository from some person who made it for this purpose. So I'm adding that repository. Am I sure? Enter. So boom, boom, boom. So now it's updating this list. And hopefully now this repository is added to the list of repositories. So whatever is on this repository with apt command, I can install. But before we do that, it just wants to update again. So it's good to update every now and then. It doesn't take long. Sorry, Control Shift V. Boom, boom, boom. So it's updating everything, done. Okay. Now, I will copy this line, but I will not press enter. It's a very long line. And I will explain again what I'm doing. Why is this line so long? Okay, Control C, V, okay? So if you look at this, it says sudo, so I'm still using this master main account. apt-get, which is this package manager which installs applications for me, I tell it to install. And then I list everything that I want to install. Okay, so they are just, you know, every single thing that I want to install is separated with space. Okay, nice and easy. I can do all this one by one, okay? But I don't need to. I can just put one line, which is this long, and it will install everything that we need, okay? And let me just point a few things out, okay? So, and it's unfortunately, so this is PHP 7.3. That's what we want. But we also want some additional extensions for it, okay? So one of the extensions is PHP 7.3-CL, and then I is on the next line, unfortunately, CLI, command line interface. It means that I can install another version of PHP, which I can type inside this terminal and execute PHP commands directly inside of terminal, which is quite nice. You can do the same thing with Python and similar stuff, you know, so that's not a problem. Another thing that I'm installing is like mySQL extensions, so it can communicate better with the database, and some other little image manipulation scripts and so on, so which is quite handy and quite often used. MB string and all these are used with applications like WordPress and so on quite often, you know, so these are very standard plugins that we are installing. Curl, very important if we are writing APIs, for example. This little parameter at end -y, it says just answer yes to every single question, because every time it will say, are you sure you want to install this one? I just say yes to everything, okay? So if I press enter, it's going to do one by one each one of these. So it's getting them from this repository, and it's installing them in the right place, connecting everything to everything what it needs to be connected. Gives you all the information in the world which you don't care about, is it working? The only thing what you care is if you see something, some sort of error And then you need that, that information to see what went wrong. Of course, Ubuntu is very user-friendly as a terminal, so it doesn't tell you even thank you very much or well done, it has been installed successfully. It just brings you back this, command prompt and says send me new stuff. So PHP is installed. Okay, it's working, great. So if I do PHP-V in the thing, I should get something like this. So I can execute PHP code in my terminal. Before this, I couldn't. I could only execute C code or whatever is native for this Ubuntu, but now I can. This dash V means version, so tell me which version I installed, so I can confirm that I installed version 7.33, etc., etc. So PHP up and running.
I have a question.
Yes. Speak in a little microphone, which is over there, so people can hear you.
When you show, when you copied this big line to PHP version 7.3, so the point is when I did step by step, first it goes section install in PHP, and then I took the line number 6 for PHP 7.3.
Mm-hmm.
And I just saw that you took the line from upgrade PHP number 5. Are these lines the same? Because I didn't do upgrade PHP, I only installed PHP 7.3. Maybe that's why I have.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah?
Yep.
But these lines are exactly the same, not?
Yeah, it's weird. I'll make sure that we get the correct settings, but I don't know, is it working yet? I'm not sure that it's working yet, so I still might get it wrong, okay? But you think, oh, but you just type PHP and it says something, it is working. This is this PHP CLI, command line interface, so it works there, but does it work on my website? Okay, that's the question, and I don't know. Okay, so I will check that in a second, but before I do that, I'll update one more little thing. I will go with this command, okay? So sudo, you know what it is. Nano, you know it's this editor, so I'm going to edit the file which is in the folder etc, and it's called hosts. So I can just specify this. I don't have to go in that specific folder and find that file. I can just go directly if I know its path. Okay? So you see here what I mentioned before, 127.0.0.1, that's the address of your computer, and this is matched to the name localhost, okay? If I press enter there and put same thing, 127.0.0.1, press tab, type appsforce.com, some website which doesn't exist, okay? And save this file. So I press Ctrl-O, press enter to confirm the name, Ctrl-X to exit. So what can happen now, if it works, I will go to appsforce.com, and it will load the same Ubuntu default Apache page. Okay? So basically, I don't have to use localhost. I can use any URL. I just tell in this host files, there's the address that I want to use. So basically, we can simulate it. But it shouldn't exist, because what browsers try to do is, you are connected to internet. So if you type google.com, it will probably either find it in your history or cache and then go there. So it's better if the site doesn't exist. So appsforce.com doesn't exist. I know that, and it works fine. Does the PHP work? Well, I don't know. But let me do something now here, okay? I will start Visual Studio Code, which, as I said, I downloaded from this store, okay? For some reason, I like this Insider's version, but they are exactly the same, okay? get started, I don't care about this, you can set it up and so on. So what I want to do is open folder, okay? And the folder that I want to open is the one where everything related to my web development is. So basically it's on my hard drive, it's in var www HTML, okay? So that's the folder that I want to open, so I press OK. Okay, so boom. Do I trust this thing? Yes, I trust it, okay? So you see I have a file called index.html. That's the file that is displayed on my page, on my test page. And if I make any changes to this file, you know, so it says it works really well, okay, and press File, Save, you will get a little message, insufficient permission. You remember I talked about permissions. So I'm running VS Code as myself, AF. That's my username. If I go to this terminal and say cd var www h, okay, and lsla, this HTML and everything inside doesn't belong to Andre. It doesn't even belong to Apache, so my server Apache can read it, but it's not going to be able to make any changes. And sometimes we do need to make changes. If user uploads their picture, we need to save that picture there, for example. It won't be able to do that. So I need to change the permissions and the ownership of these files. And I do it here. I do it for HTML. So everything inside HTML will change the ownership, okay? So I say sudo, okay, again, chown, change ownership, okay? So I want to change ownership. I want to do all the files inside the folders and all the subfolders and everybody in them, and so -R will do that. If I don't do -R, it will just do the first one and then ignore all the others, okay? And again, it's case sensitive, so you can't put the other one. Now I need to specify what is my new owner. If you remember, this first root is the user, the second one is a group, okay? So I will put myself as a user who owns this thing, AF. And then I will put column, because that's somebody decided that's how you separate these things, okay? And then after that, I need to put the group, okay? And the group is www-data, okay? And this is Apache's own group. So Apache, my server, has a right to access files here. And a couple of times, you know, later when you get the new code and so on, you will have to do this again and again in order to reset the ownership so it's properly owned, okay? And then I have to specify what folder I want to change. So I want to change HTML and everything else. As I said, -R will do everything inside, not outside. Boom, done. So if I do lsla again, see now this folder is owned by me as a user and group www-data. Any questions? If I go inside HTML and do lsla again, so see this file index.html, it's also owned by AF and www-data. That's what this -R did. It did all the files inside. So if I go back to my VS Code, okay, I'll dismiss this message, and I will try to save this file again. Boom, now it's saved. It didn't complain. So what I can do is refresh this page, and I don't see any changes. Maybe I did something wrong, maybe I didn't, I don't know. This is a title, yeah, I'm an idiot. I just changed the, so I need to find some text here. Okay, so this is a default welcome page, so that's that text. So if I put enter here and type Ali Haba, and again go file save, which I hate doing file save. So what I do is I check this one, auto save. So it will save everything automatically. And if I refresh this page, it does say Ali Haba there. Okay, so I updated something. But does PHP work? Okay, I don't know. So I will create a new file. I right click here in my list of, so this is HTML, this is that folder that I opened. This is my only file, so I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to call it index, or I'm going to call it test.php, okay? So that's my test.php file. If I go back here, ls, I have two files, index.html and test.php. If I do ls.la, see, it's very interesting, because it didn't change it to www data, the group, because I created it as a user. So if I create this file as a user AF, that's what's going to say, AF. If somebody uploaded something from the internet and up like your profile picture and save that here, it will be www data, okay? So it gets a little bit confusing with these permissions, okay? But at least it's there, it's working, okay? So PHP, and I don't know what's the thing. Is it PHP info? Is it PHP underscore info? But we will see in a second, okay? So I can go and specify, I called it, I think, test PHP. Okay? So I told Apache, open a file called test PHP, and in this test PHP, I have one PHP function, which I will zoom in here, terminal, it's Control plus or something, yeah. Okay? So this is a PHP code which calls a function PHP info, and this PHP info lists everything about my local installation of PHP. So PHP works, okay? But the second thing is, it goes on and on forever because it says everything what is installed, okay? So remember I mentioned in that long line there was something called imagic, it's installed MB string, here it's installed, mySQL plugin is installed. So this is what you need to have, you know, it goes on and on and on and on and on, you know, that's what is right now installed. So far so good. PHP works. If you are missing half of this stuff, if this is very short and so on, you probably didn't install anything. You can repeat the same command again. It's not going to crash everything. It's just going to reinstall it. That's absolutely fine. Any questions? Don't see anything online. Don't see anything in the... Yes?
I'm a little bit confused with these permissions. Could you please again explain what's the difference this www data? This permission we also can change stuff. And RF like a user, and this also we can change, right? What's the difference between these two permissions?
It's a very good question, and I said it is confusing, okay? So one file, any file, can be owned by one single user, that's this first parameter, and can be used by a group of users, okay? So on Ubuntu, when we finish this, we will have a group called root, group called www-data, which is Apache, and we'll have a group mySQL. Okay? Probably have some other hidden ones, but they are not important. So we have multiple groups. AF, that's me as a user, I'm not member of any of those groups. I can add that, there is a command which adds me to the group, but I don't want that. Okay? On the Mac, there's another group called staff, and you, as a user, are a member of staff. Okay? So one file can be accessed by either the user or by any member of the group. Okay? So one file can be accessed by both of those. Okay? So if I'm root, which means I type sudo and then I'm immediately root, I can access everything. Okay? So that doesn't matter who the hell owns the thing, which group it is, but we don't use that for security reasons because people will be able to take over your website and exploit everything, okay? So we don't hide this, okay? So what we do is we say, okay, every file inside HTML is owned by user www-data and group www-data. So nobody else can mess up with my files on internet. Only Apache. I only allow Apache to do this. But Apache can't get any other file than that. It can't go outside the directory. It has no permissions to read, write, change anything outside that directory. Okay, so we are keeping this separated. Okay, but the problem is AF, who opens VS Code and change files, wants to change that file, can't because it doesn't belong to him. So it tells us no. So that's why I said for our development purpose, we make sure that all the files in HTML are owned by user AF or whatever is your username and the group www-data. So both me as a developer and Apache as a server can read, write, change, delete, update, create new ones, and so on. Does that explain? Okay. But there is one more thing which will come into a few more minutes. Okay, so Apache installed, PHP installed. That's great. Now I have to install mySQL. Okay? So mySQL should be extremely easy to install. So is this line here, sudo install MySQL server. So see what is happening here. If you read these little things, you will see that it has version 5.7. That's the version that is going to install. That's the default version in Ubuntu 18. If you have Ubuntu 20, it will try to install version 8, okay, which we don't want to use. So version 7, we are fine. Go ahead, install it. Takes a few seconds, minutes, and after that, our server is up and running. But during this process of installation, it's also installing these users, MySQL user, MySQL group, and so on. Okay, so it's adding them to the list. It's setting up so it can run as a service. And if you remember, I said service is something which runs on all the time. Even if it crashes, it restarts and runs all the time. So that's what we want our server to do. So MySQL database runs all the time. Boom, it's installed. Great. Okay, so this is kind of optional, but most people recommend to do it, and I don't like it. So, but here we go. You can run this command, MySQL secure installation. So it asks you to secure your MySQL server. So this is a must-have on your real server, but on your local server, I don't like it, okay? Because it just makes stuff easier. Like do you want passwords to be very strong? It's like, no. I want to use password for my database 1234 or something stupid as that. Not on a real server, but on my, okay? So what is my root password? Well, my root password is root. And this is, again, confusing, so this is that root user because I put sudo install this program, so it is going to install it as a main user, so the password root. Remove anonymous users, no. Disallow login remotely, no. It's opposite on a real server, you say yes. Remove test database, no. Reload privileges tables, yes. All done. Okay, so if I go sudo mySQL, enter. So I didn't even have to start it. It actually started itself as a service. So it's even better. Okay. If I type sudo mySQL, it will access everything, every single database, data table, without any problems. Okay. I will type exit and semicolon because now I'm typing in SQL language, SQL commands. So I go back to here. Typically, you will log in with MySQL. You say without sudo, username root, and I'll ask me for the password. So that's the command. And it asks me for the password, and I type root and press enter. And then it gives me this thing. You can't access it. You can't log in as a normal user into the database. Sudo MySQL, I'm in. But if I type the username and password, which I just set up during this secure installation, no. Okay? So, alter user, so I'm going to type this command, which is again, MySQL language, MySQL command. So I'm going to change this user root at localhost because this one wasn't at localhost. And if you remember, localhost means my machine. And I'm going to put the password. So this last word identified by root, that's actually password. Okay, so you can put anything that you want here. So you can put 1, 2, 3, 4, or so. So you press enter. That's worked fine, great. Then you do next command, flush privileges. So it reloads this, loads this user that I just defined and exit. Done. So I'm fine. So if I go up to this command, which I tried and it didn't work, and type password root and press enter, boom, access denied. So I just did everything.
What did we change with this alter user?
I changed the password. But I didn't just change the password because MySQL can have, and this is very smart. Okay, it's a good question. If Apache and MySQL are on the same server on my machine, they can talk to each other. They don't need internet to talk to each other. So then for security reasons, I can disable MySQL to be accessed from any external computer. Okay? So this is why I say the user which will access this database is called root, but it is local host, it's the local guy, not remote people. But I can define if I want to remote users, etc., etc. Okay? So that's great, but why it doesn't work? Because I didn't restart the service. Okay? So if I make changes like that to Apache or any other service, I have to restart it. Boom. It's thinking, so it's restarted. So if I try to log in now and type my password root, doesn't work. It's running, but it doesn't allow me to log in. And this is a problem because when I set up the website that I want to run here, the website will use this user, okay? So if I don't get this fixed, my website is not going to work, okay? So this is why these commands are very important to execute in order to make sure that you don't go to the next step and next step, because my website doesn't work. I don't know why it doesn't work, but well, you didn't set up your stuff properly, okay? So this is obviously showing that my thing is not working properly, that this user at localhost doesn't work. So I have to figure out what's wrong with that and fix it, okay? So, but I won't do that right now. Inside the database, I just log in as a sudo user, so it doesn't ask me for the password. I can check show databases. Okay, so these are the databases that I have set up. This is what it was asking me, do I want to remove some demo data, demo stuff, okay? And if I want to use, let's say, this database, so it has like 4 databases already. Okay, so now it's show tables. Okay, so these are all the tables inside this database. Okay, and it has a table user. I can select. This is another MySQL command which will show me what data is in this table. Star means everything from user. So I tell him, show me everything from this user table, okay? So apparently, and you need to really make this long or something like that to see what the hell is going on. But there is a local host, and I did see somewhere here that there is a thing called root. So maybe I did mistype something. It's worth checking it again. You know, MySQL, is this native password? I know what it is. It's this MySQL native password thing. You can Google it and it will fix it, but you know, I don't want to waste too much time on this thing because we already are hour and a half. So I need to do a few more things, okay, in order to make sure that everything works. And I will just show you that and give it a little bit of time for some questions, okay? I want to get some code. One thing which is really good about this is that I can open a terminal right here. Okay, this is exactly the same one as this one. Okay, so I don't have to use this one anymore. I can exit this, doesn't matter. I can even close it. It's the same one, okay? So if I type LSLA, it will show me what I have. I have these 2 files, which I see here anyway, and that's it, okay? So that's what I like, you know, I don't have to leave the program. I can just be in here and do whatever I need to do in a terminal quite easily. So what I want to do is, first of all, delete these 2 files, okay? So I can use terminal command like that, which will delete them, okay? But I don't want to do that because this is much easier, you know, as I said on the first session, make it easier for you. So we all know how to delete files. There you go, all deleted. Okay, and if I type here in the terminal ls or lsla, nothing, great, Now, good thing about this LA version, it will show you are there any hidden files. LS won't, okay? So just to make sure that everything is empty, you can type LSLA. But this one here shows you hidden files if you allow it this little explorer, which we have, okay? So what I need to do is inside of this folder, I need to clone something, okay? And I need to do this, okay? Boom, 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 boom. Control C. And again, as I said, I'll put the links there, okay? So I'm typing another terminal command. It's just same terminal as the one before, okay? So it just is in Visual Studio Code. Git. So this is my repository, that's a command. I want to clone a repository which is on this address, HTTP, that's the address of the repository. And the key thing is that I have a little dot at the end, okay? This dot is very important, so when you copy paste, please remember to put this dot. If you don't put the dot, it's going to create a folder and then put everything inside that folder. So it's going to create folder in a folder, which is fine. It's not a big problem, but I don't want to have folder in a folder. I want this to be in my root folder. I want this software, these files that I'm cloning, to be in my var www.html, okay? So if I want to do that, I have to put one dot at the end. And it complains. No Git. Because Git is another command which obviously I need to install, and it is very intelligently saying you can install it by just typing this sudo apt install git. So, okay, yes, zoom. Again, it doesn't matter where I am, it installs the application globally, so it's available wherever I go. So if I now go up on my arrow key twice, I go back to my command, so I don't have to type this again. Press enter. Boom, it connected to the internet, connected to the repository, got all the files, copied them, and put them here. Okay? So these are all the files that I care about. I will make a directory called myadmin. That's the next step. And now you can see I have a directory myadmin, and I will go inside directory myadmin because I need to copy one more repository, and I will cover this later why it's done by that, okay? So that's a command. Why does say user? I will change that in a second. Okay, I have my dot at the end, but I don't need this user thing here, okay? So this will take a little bit longer because that's much more code. This is like a couple of gigabytes, 3 gigabytes, so it's actually doing very fast this job. Where you don't have a big GUI and lots of progress bars and stuff like that, you can execute things very fast on your computer. So as you can see, it's around 118,000 files that it just got copied, installed, you know. And a couple of seconds later, they should all be in. So a question for you guys now. Who is going to be the owner of these files?
Say AF, because you didn't put sudo.
That's correct. She said AF. It's a little microphone there. Sorry. Khalil said root on the chat.
Isn't it Apache? Because you said everything which is in HTML is accessible via Apache.
Well, it should be Apache, but the thing is, I'm creating these files and saving these files right now, okay? And Sam was absolutely right because I didn't type sudo. I'm logged in as AF in, as you can see it on my I am AF user. So all these files are created by AF users, so all of them will be AF. Okay? So it's very important to remember that that's what happened. Okay? So if I do LSLA, they're all AF. Because when I do that chown thing, it can only do for the files which are already there. If I add more afterwards, it's not going to work. So I have to remember, if I clone something, if I create many new files, I do need to update this every now and then, okay? So I will do that again. I will go to HTML, above HTML, because I want HTML and everything inside. So sudo, I have to type sudo, change ownership, dash capital R. I want this to be AF :www data, and the folder is HTML, boom, okay? So now all these files, I will check cd HTML, cd myadmin, LSLA. Now they are all AF www data, okay? And they will stay like that unless I delete and create new ones, which obviously, as I said, it can't know, so you have to do this again occasionally every now and then. But if you start running upsource now, of course it's not going to work for two reasons, because my database is not working, but there is another thing why it doesn't work. And I think I can even show you that right now. So if I go to upsource.com, it throws an error, okay? It throws an error, it doesn't work, because why it doesn't work? Well, good thing is now we have a thing called log, okay? And it's complaining that database is not working. So you can see here, blah, 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 database. So I still need to fix that, okay? But one thing what I also need to change is that if Apache tries to write files to the specific folder and create a new file, it won't be able to. Okay? And you say, why? No, we just give them a permission. It has all the permissions, okay? So there is one more thing that is very important, okay? This DRW thing, okay? This is your read, write, execute, or something like that permissions, okay? So we give each file or each folder or group of files or group folders certain rights, okay? And on the websites, they are typically 644, okay? What does that mean, 644? Well, this is a horrible thing in Linux because it makes no sense. But it is something about binary flags, okay? And you remember first we talked about those switches and binary numbers, how they are represented. So 644 are some flags. So basically this DRW is 1 byte of information and it has a flag which is either on and off. So if it's on, this LSLA will put word D, and if it's off, it will put this dash. Okay, so we can see which flag is on, which one is off, okay? So, but because this is so complex, 644 is like short code for exactly that, which gives permissions to Apache to read files, okay, which is fine for most files. You want Apache, the website, the web server, to read the files. Okay, you can't modify them. That's the most secure thing. Because every user which goes to my website, I want Apache to be able to read those files, give it to the user, but no way to change them. These are fixed files. I don't want Apache to change or put new ones and so on. Quite often, people make a terrible mistake and give a different permission, 777, which means you can do whatever you want. Okay? What happens is, typically on WordPress websites, and I see this multiple times, because you put 777, hackers exploit that. They have scripts which go around the internet and check who has set up their shit incorrectly. And if it's 777, what they like to do is they put all the, for one reason, I don't know why, it's always Viagra. All the commercials about Viagra, they just put it on your website. They can also start sending emails for you, and depends on they steal your data and all that. But typically the first thing what you notice is on your website, suddenly you have Viagra ads and stuff like that. That's because you allowed Apache to, in all the folders that it has access to create stuff, so it creates little JavaScripts and HTML and additional stuff. I don't want that. But I want Apache to do two things. In this case, write a storage inside of storage folder. That's what this folder is for. Okay, I want it to be able to write its temporary files. So if I go see the storage, but I don't have to go see the storage, I can see it here. So I have some framework which basically has cache and so on, like sessions, etc., which is great. So I want Apache to be able to write those type of temporary files that it needs, and logs if something goes wrong. So what I will do is, again, sudo, okay, I want now to modify, not the permissions, I want to modify the permissions, okay, not the ownership. So we talked about ownership, but then we have permissions. And again, I want to do it for this folder and all the stuff inside. So dash capital R, 777, I want to change it to this full access, but I only want storage directory, okay? Boom. Okay? So if I go LSLA, now the storage, see when I do LSLA, it's actually in green, it's highlighted because this is full, there's no dashes here, so it's full access to this. Okay? So in order for this to work, one is storage, the other one is same thing for Bootstrap, okay? So, and that's it. So now I gave my Apache the correct permissions because I wanted to occasionally be able to write in this Bootstrap directory, whatever that is for, and I will explain why Bootstrap, why storage in more details in one of the next sessions. But in order for you guys to get this to work, it has to have 777, so full permission for these two folders inside my admin, one called Bootstrap, one called storage, and all the folders inside those folders. But everything else is 644, so you can read it, but you can't really change them and so on. So if I refresh this page again, of course it's not going to work, but I know why it doesn't work. It doesn't work because I didn't do the database thing correctly. I need to Google. There is a few steps I need to do in order to fix this problem. If it doesn't work, I can always uninstall mySQL, install it again, and hopefully that will work this time. But I'm aware of the time, it's hour 45 minutes. So in this hour 45 minutes, we managed to explain, I think, in great details how to set up the platform. But I didn't do one more thing, okay? So before I open this for questions, I need to create, because this requires one file, okay? So I will right click on my admin and I will create a new file. And I will call this file .env, okay? And press enter. And it's going to be empty because it's a new file. And I'm going to copy paste this settings, okay? Control C, V, okay? So my database is my admin root, okay, that's all fine. So in order for this to work, it has to know what is the environment, what is the configuration of, what's the database, how do I access it, what's the username, and so on. So that's stored in this env file. So I can just copy paste this and it will have the right settings. Of course, if you called yourself something else than root, and if your password is not root in your MySQL database, you need to change this here. So that's the environment file which this application, this web application will read in order to be able to connect to the internet. But I don't have the database. So sudo, oh my God, Control Z, don't type there, sudo MySQL, because this is accessing the database called myadmin. Okay, so I need to create database myadmin. Okay, so now I have a database myadmin. Okay, which is great. And the last thing what I need to do is I can do it here and I can do it in multiple different ways, but I'll explain this a little bit later in great details when you talk about databases, how it works. I just need to import one SQL file, okay? So that SQL file, okay, so it's this one here, okay? But I need to make sure that I have that file. And here it's called myadminmaster.sql. That's the file that I have. It's here in myadmin. So I'm in myadmin, and I will need to modify this SQL. So the name of the file is myadminmaster. Okay, so that's. And the way I type this very fast, I just press tab and it finds it itself, okay? And I know the sudo mysql -u, you know, so I'm going to just delete this and try that. Okay? So basically that's what it did. I just imported this temporary database, this database which comes with the code, into the database, okay? So now the data should be accessible if this was to work, but it, as I say, it doesn't. I need to fix that. You know, it still can't connect to the database because of that earlier problem. So if you get stuck on any of these at any point, don't keep going, resolve it, because you might add multiple problems and then you say, my website doesn't work. Well, I don't know why it doesn't work. Maybe you didn't install PHP, all the files properly. Maybe you missed a password for MySQL. So every single step has to work before you move to the next one. So on this channel, if you are listening to the channel, you can put it in the comments if you don't have anything working. Okay, if you get stuck, ask a question. I'll try to answer them as quickly as I can. You know, if you're here at the office, just ping me, you know, find me on Skype, doesn't matter, you know, and I will try to help you out. But this is it. So after I have done all this, if I've done it successfully, it will open this website. And I will be able to log in and use whatever the application does, but we will cover that in the next time. So we have 5-6 more minutes, so maybe if you have some questions.
So all of these files in the directory now, on the left, that's what Apache put in, right? As a new project or whatever.
Guys, if you are asking questions, ask it, because now I have to repeat it. So all the files on the left, are they put in by Apache? No. They are, Apache can access them, okay? So when we installed Apache, that was the first step, then we configured, and I copy-pasted that few lines of code in that config file, which specifies to Apache, you can only access these files in this folder, var www.html. So that's, I told Apache this is what you can do. Okay, saved, restart Apache, so now Apache knows I can only access these files here. Okay, what put the files there is either I clone them with Git, as you saw, so I pull the files from a remote location, or I can create files myself, like file new, like I created this .env file, but remember before I created a test file. Okay, so what puts the files there, it puts me. But Apache, because I set up my permissions properly, can also put its own files. So let's say user uploads this profile picture, Apache can now save it in the storage folder, which I allowed it to be saved for those reasons. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Where can you access the app source code? The code is these links which I will put in the description, but I will also share with the Skype, but you also have it in my documentation, so the links are, the GitHub links, okay? So, but guys, you can also go to any GitHub project, any PHP project, you can just clone that. So if you say, there's a lovely application for doing, I don't know, ticket booking or stuff like that, and you want to see it running, you can clone that one and it will work. Any other questions?
I have one question about permissions, these numbers for permissions. As far as I understand, they are automatically given. So we don't specify that this permission will have number 777 and this will have number, another one is 644, right? They're automatic.
They are not automatic. Let me show you this on example, but let me share my, was it this one? Yeah. Okay, so this is a file explorer, okay? And in File Explorer, I will go to other locations. I will go to computer, I will go to var, I will go to www, HTML, and I will right-click on index.php, and I will say properties, okay? So this is where you can see these properties because it has permissions, okay? So this is what it looks like if we use graphics interface, okay? So owner, it says me, but it's AF, okay? But group is www data, okay? So this is the permissions that are assigned to this specific file. So the owner is Andre, group that can access it is www data, which is Apache, okay? Now, those numbers are bits, flags or switches which tell it what kind of permission this owner and this group have. Okay, so if I say 777, then both of me and www data will be able to read and write. Okay, and then of course there are others which can, read only. Okay, so if I say 666 or 444 or 644, that changes these flags. So I can have read only, okay? But of course this is a graphics interface which just gives me dumb controls, or just this one or that one, but it's much more granular if you want to, if you control each bit directly. But basically what it means, do I want to allow people to read, write, execute, and delete these specific files?
But that's okay, but that's what we can indicate, but initially what they are. Initially what we create something like,
So I will create here a new file, okay?
yeah.
So I will create here a file, new file, testing text, okay? And I go here in the Explorer, and I see this texting text. I right click, properties, permissions. This is what initially it is. So see, even if I put it in this folder, it didn't inherit the permissions like www.data. Because I created it, it doesn't know what group I wanted it to use. And default is I can read and write because I created it, I am the owner, so I have the whole access to it, okay? But that's not very good because, of course, you know, I need to modify that to be secure and accessible, etc., etc. Does that answer your question? What's the default value? So it doesn't inherit it from the parent directly, okay? So if I am the user, I created it, then I have the right to do whatever I want. But all the other users don't.
I have a question now.
Yeah, okay. You remember the mic. That's
Yes.
great.
So if you make a new file and then the file belongs to you, so let's say AF, but the group is also AF.
Yes.
And then if you put the code 664, that means Apache can't access it, and that means it can't run, right?
Well, that's a good question, but you see, it has the group others. Okay? You see this others? So others can read it. So Apache will still be able to read the file, okay, but not modify it, change it, delete it, or anything like that. So I control who has access to what. Of course, I can say nothing, you know, none. And then it's 660 or 640. Okay, so it changes that, and then Apache will not be able to read this at all.
But do we need Apache to be able to rewrite it as well, or no?
Do we need Apache to be able to write it or no? So as I explained this, we can say to Apache, you can write everything, and then you will get Viagras on your website. Okay, so we need Apache to be able to write certain folders, okay? But those folders will specify, and even if they put Viagra, we don't care, okay? Because that's not going to be displayed in on my page, because I'm not allowing it to where my CSS and JavaScript files are and where my pages, HTML is. I'm not allowing them to change that. That I keep separate. That you can read only. You won't get permissions and storage and all this sort of stuff immediately. It will take a little bit of time, but I think we spent enough on this call to give you that it's very important, you know, and that as long as you're aware of it, that's good, okay? And then you can ask questions and it will clarify, but I think we covered it quite in depth. Any other questions? Nope. My problem is that Ubuntu partition gets network service, download specific drivers for my chipset manually. Yeah, the driver issue, okay? So when you install this Ubuntu, it has a couple of options. It says, do you want us to download stuff automatically, and do you want us to download from third party? And you need to check that box, because if you have third party stuff like NVIDIA graphics card on. So all you need to check that box. But also you need to be in a step before when it asks you, do you want to connect to internet? Say yes, and connect to internet so you can download that during the installation. And then hopefully it should work without you configuring any drivers for any graphics cards, monitors, sound cards, Bluetooth, stuff like that. It should be covered in 99% of the cases. They're actually quite good with the drivers, and I didn't have any problems running it on any computers, except my crazy computer at home. Any more questions? Can I reinstall everything, or it will anything overwrite? Reinstall everything. Don't know what you mean. You can always reinstall everything. Let's say I just type command now install Apache again. Okay, it will reinstall all Apache files, but it will not change my configuration file. So if I made a mistake in configuration, even if I reinstall Apache, it will keep that configuration. If I made a mistake there, the new version of Apache will fail exactly the same thing. If I delete Apache, it will keep the configuration, and I install it again. If I didn't change the configuration file, it will still be there, and it will still cause the errors, okay? So there is a command in Linux called Purge, so it actually deletes and wipes all the stuff related to that application, okay? Same thing goes with mySQL. mySQL, if you uninstall, it will leave your database files on your computer and configuration files. So we're going to delete them. You know, so if you want to reinstall, if you made a mess in this process and it doesn't work, then you can reinstall, but you also need to purge all the files, or just reinstall Ubuntu, because as you see, it takes like 10 minutes if you have a USB stick to set it up if you get it right, so it's not a problem. But guys, if you get stuck, ask me a question, okay? Send a question to us, because this is the only way to learn, okay? Google it for 5 minutes. If it doesn't work, doesn't explain it, ask the question, you know, because you will never learn if you don't resolve it. Yeah, it doesn't matter, but somehow by magic it suddenly works. I need you to understand what was the issue and how you fixed it. There are more codes. Yes, there are more codes. But anyway, I think we had enough for today. We are more than 2 hours on the call, so we covered quite a lot. So guys, thank you very much. Later today I will put all the links in comments, so you can have all the commands and stuff like that that we use today. And as I said, you know, please, please, please give me all your feedback, because with the feedback I can improve these sessions for the next one and next one. So I hope by the next session that we will all have this app source running, okay? Because then we are going to actually start using this and start programming. So it will be really good if you can have it up and running. That would be brilliant. And as I said, if you get stuck, please ask questions so we can help you out over the next 4 or 5 days. Thank you very much. Have a nice one. Bye-bye.